Welcome to this special webinar. My name is Dr. Stephen Sussman. I am a professor of public administration in the Andreas School of Business and Public Administration at Barry University in Miami, Florida, and the co-founder of the Palm Beach Center for Democracy and Policy Research. Dr. Luis Fleischman and I, along with a team of dedicated colleagues, established the center as an outlet letting someone in, so hang on. As an outlet for the marketplace of ideas. The Palm Beach Center for Democracy and Policy Research is a nonpartisan public policy organization, a research center, and a think tank. We are very proud of our international recognition we received in the last few months. Dr. Fleischman was recently interviewed in Newsweek, wrote articles for Eurasia Review, and articles for National Interest. We are a gathering of scholars, experts, and community stakeholders engaged in research and dialogue in an effort to create practical policy recommendations to current local, national, and international challenges. Therefore, the center encourages discussion and research from multiple perspectives. We believe that good policy is the result of reasonable dialogue and healthy debate. We believe in the marketplace of ideas. Thus, through publishing balanced articles and community engagement, such as tonight's webinar, the center aspires to provide a platform for critical thinking, analysis, and ideas to confront challenges that affect our world. Our core values of diversity, balance, and community define us and set us apart from other organizations. As an organization, we value diverse voices and views and see it as a means to create a healthy debate. The center provides a balanced platform where civilized communication, exchange of ideas, and inclusion prevail over party politics and dogmatic views. Our objective is to be a community and place of gathering for academics, professionals, elected officials, decision makers, and civil society groups and leaders. Please visit our website at palmbeachdemocracy.org. On the site, you will find links to our past webinars. Recent webinars include a program on cryptocurrency and its connection to foreign policy, academic scholarship versus ideology, the intersection of national security and the Florida tech ecosystem, analysis of the Middle East peace process, and many more. On our website, you will find a donation button. We are a 501c3. Through your generous donations, we are able to bring you important and timely programs and articles. Tonight, the Palm Beach Center for Democracy and Policy Research is thrilled to present a special webinar with Dr. Robert Rabil, professor of political science at Florida Atlantic University. Dr. Rabil will discuss his new book, Lebanon and Turkey, Historical Context and Contemporary Realities. Dr. Luis Fleischman will serve as moderator and will officially introduce Professor Rabil. Dr. Fleischman, of course, is the co-founder of the Palm Beach Center for Democracy and Policy Research and a professor of sociology at Palm Beach State College. His most recent book is The Middle East Riddle, a study of the Middle East peace process and Israeli-Arab relations. As such, he is well-positioned to serve as moderator. We welcome your questions. You can write your questions in the chat box, or when we are ready for the questions, you can raise your hand virtually or otherwise. I now turn it over to Professor Fleischman.
Hi, so nice to see such a wonderful audience and such a youthful audience too. I will be the moderator tonight. I'm going just to re-emphasize the rules of how we are going to conduct it tonight. But first, let me introduce Robert. Well, first of all, Robert is a member of our center. And in fact, he has contributed tremendously. He introduced us to publications such as The National Interest, where we were able to publish some of our articles. and put the center on the national stage. Robert actually reviewed my writings. I reviewed his, including the book that is going to be presented tonight, Turkey and Lebanon. And I have to tell you that I had a wonderful time. I reviewed only parts of the book, but the part of the book that I reviewed, it was shocking to me how much I didn't know. And I happened to review the part of the policies of starvation, which is unbelievable. Turkey basically preceded the Soviets and the Germans in terms of policies of starvation. And the book, of course, covers a plethora of issues. And I didn't know about the tremendous influence that Turkey has had in Lebanon, not only because it dominated that part, Lebanon was part of the Ottoman Empire, but also the influence that Turkey continued to have after the Lebanese independence. And given the divisions within Lebanon, parts of the Lebanese hated the Turks and another part actually loved the Turks. The book ends up in a great analysis of modern Turkey and the modern policies of Erdogan. It's a great book, actually. You learn a lot, not only about Lebanon and Turkey, but about the entire Middle East as well. It is really a must read. Now, a few things about Robert. Robert received his Bachelor of Arts in Computer Science from the Massachusetts College of Liberal Arts, his Master's in Government from Harvard University Extension Schools, and his PhD in Near Eastern and Judaic Studies from Brandeis University. And he has a plethora of areas of research, including political Islam, terrorism, transnational and revivalist movements, US-Arab relations, the Arab-Israeli conflict, political reform, and I think the Arab Spring as well. That means contemporary Middle Eastern politics as well. He's the author of a number of books, most of them related to the Middle East, and the list is long, so this is why I'm not going to repeat every single book. I'm not going to mention every single book, but the list is long, and I think you can see it even in our website, but if not, you can go to FAU website or to his website, which is robertrabil.com. Am I right, Robert?
Yes, correct.
And there you can see everything he has done is basically unbelievable. Dr. Rabil is currently undertaking multiple research projects on US national security and Arab revolts and Christians in the Middle East, and Salafism. I had the honor and the pleasure of reading some of Robert's books, and they are terrific. Robert is also a media person. He actually has given interviews to ABC News, CBS News, the BBC, Fox, MSNBC, and C-SPAN. He has been professor of political science at Florida Atlantic University for a good number of years, at least 15 years. And of course, the Lifelong Learning Society at Boca Raton. He was conferred with an honorary PhD in humanities from the Massachusetts College of Liberal Arts, which is also his alma mater. That shows you the kind of recognition that Robert has. It's really an honor for us to have him as member of the board of directors of the center. Now, another thing about Robert is that Robert was the project manager of the Iraq Research and Documentation Project, which was a project affiliated with Harvard University and funded by the State Department. And he did it during the war in Iraq. Robert was an advisor to the Pentagon and to the State Department on Iraq during the war, something very, very important work that he did. So he's really a national figure. That's the reality, well known all over the place. Robert is going to make a presentation, about 20 minutes, more or less, and then it's going to be open to questions. You can ask your questions directly by speaking up. I would prefer that, frankly, or by writing your questions in the chat. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Robert Rabil. Robert, the
Thank
floor
you,
is
Louis.
yours.
Louis, thank you. It's a pleasure and an honor to be with you. And thank you for this long, really, introduction. Really, you made me a little bit, I don't know, but I am really thankful. And it's a pleasure to be friends with you, you know, on the personal level, with you, with Stephen, and with many of you there on the personal level, on the intellectual level. And I love you guys. Now, let me speak a little bit why I wrote this book. This book on Turkey has been on my mind for quite some time. As a matter of fact, I wrote 7 books before I wrote this book. I just want to give you something personal. I was born in Mount Lebanon, in a beautiful city, you know, in a beautiful village called Hammana. And in Hammana used to have this huge palace. And it used to be and still owned by a Druze Muqaddam, mainly a Druze chieftain. And then, you know, when, and I used to live also in Hazmi, it's in East Beirut, and this is where you had the Ottoman cemetery. So when I used to go in the mountains in the summer, you know, I used always to wonder about the Ottoman Empire. Really, I used to see it as such, it gave Lebanon such grandeur. And then when I used to go to Hazmi and see the cemetery and speak with my great-grandmother, which survived the Great Famine, and I used to say, oh my God, how can you really, you know, because you had the grandeur of the Ottoman Empire and the misery of the Ottoman Empire. And really, it was always on my mind. I was going to write about it. And then only recently, you know, the last 2 years, the last 3 years, as a matter of fact, when you had the October Revolution in Lebanon, and really it's still going on, but it's not bearing any fruit, where many Lebanese, you know, they are asking now today about the political system. Many of them, they want to change it. Many of them, they want to, some of them, as a matter of fact, the Christian, you have the issue of federalism, you have the issue of partitioning Lebanon. They are not happy with Hezbollah. You know, you have a lot of issues now. And this is why I decided, let me go to the history, you know, of Lebanon and just, you know, speak about the history of Lebanon. And again, Turkey and the Ottoman Empire played a key role in establishing Lebanon. And here, let me, as you mentioned, I'll speak for 20 minutes, and then I'll be more than happy to have questions. The Ottoman conquered the Levant, mainly what's today Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, and as a matter of fact, they defeated the Mamluk in Egypt between 1516 and 1517. And they established, and mainly they kept the what you call the wilayat, or the provinces that used to be under the Mamluk dynasty. And they pursued what is called in Arabic al-iltizam, or feudalism based on tax farming. So here you have, you know, Lebanese chieftain, especially Druze and white Druze, and mainly from the Man family, because they supported the Ottoman during their invasion. So they were really the real ruler of Mount Lebanon. And what happened is that as long as they paid their taxes, they were treated well. And something about the Ottoman really, they gave Lebanon certain leeway. And when I speak about Lebanon, you did not have Lebanon as today. You had Mount Lebanon. So they gave him certain leeway, you know. But what happened after that, you know, things changed. Demographically change, you know, you have intra rivalry among the communities, you know, Druze and Christian and some Sunni and some Shia. So the demography of Lebanon changed. I can give you an example. Probably some I don't know about it. For example, you had Shia in some area where today is mainly Christian. You have Shia, for example, in Kisarwan, today the stronghold of Maronitism or the Maronite. So this has changed. And of course, the biggest change happened in Mount Lebanon, where under Fakhruddin, you had 2 emirs in Lebanon, Fakhruddin and Amir Bashir. And they were the precursor, or the one who paved the way for Lebanese nationalism as we see Lebanon today. But what happened during their time is that Amir Fakhruddin invited the Christian from North Lebanon to live with the Druze. And this trend continued under Amir Bashir as well. But what happened, you know, especially as the Ottoman Empire became weak, and you have the Christian did way better than the Druze. This created a lot of rivalry, a lot of competition. The Maronite especially came to live among the Druze in southern Mount Lebanon, mainly what we call the mixed areas of Mount Lebanon. This is where I was born, as a matter of fact. And this was my first family. You know, my great-great-grandfather, you know, was born. My grandfather was born here in the United States. So mainly you had the demographies that changed, but also alongside, you know, you had some problems started to simmer between the Christians and between the Druze. And again, you had the Ottoman Empire introduce the Tanzimat, I believe you know about it, the reforms. And the reforms really did not sit well with the Muslims, including the Druze. Why? Because, you know, they gave the Christian and they gave the minority. And when I mean the Christian, they gave the Christian and the Jews certain rights that they did not have before, mainly to make them equal. But something happened really that changed a lot of things and introduced sectarianism. And introduced, as a matter of fact, after that, the confessional system that is today in Lebanon. In 1830, Muhammad Ali, the governor of Egypt, he was not happy with the Ottoman. He helped Ottoman defeat the Wahhabi when the Wahhabi moved into Arabia and Iraq. He helped them in their war in the Balkans, and he wanted to have Syria. Syria, as a matter of fact, you have Syria today, you know, and big chunk of Palestine / Israel, and a big chunk of the Bekaa Valley in Lebanon. Well, the Ottoman did not give it to him. He was upset, and he decided to invade the Levant. So he invaded the Levant, Muhammad Ali, in 1830, and he called on Amir Bashir for help. Now, Amir Bashir, really, he got stuck in the middle, and he was a Maronite, the first Maronite ruler of Mount Lebanon. So he was really, in between. But then you had some things that happened. The Druze rebelled. The Druze rebelled against Muhammad Ali, and Muhammad Ali just, told Amir Bashir, listen, I want you to help me. I want to suppress the Druze revolt. So here you have, Amir Bashir. He rallied around 4,000 Catholic Maronite, and he defeated the Druze. And this, as a matter of fact, planted the seeds of sectarianism, really, because before they coexisted, you had rivalry, but really you did not have sectarianism, mainly, a hatred to each other based on religion. So here what happened is that by Amir Bashir being forced to help Muhammad Ali suppress the Druze revolt, somehow the Druze never forgive that. And you had other issue as well, but that was the main thing. That was in the 1830. In 1840, this is when the British, they were not happy with Muhammad Ali because he was very close, as a matter of fact, to Anatolia, the heartland of the Ottoman Empire. So here what you have now, the British came and the Austrian, but mainly the British. The British came and supported the Ottomans, and really they defeated Muhammad Ali, and his armed forces was led by his son. Now, what happened, he withdrew. And when he withdrew by 1840, what you have now, the simmering tension between Druze and Maronite came to the surface. You had some isolated issues. This became big. You have problems throughout the 1840, but then it kind of blew up in the 1860 massacres. The 1860 massacres, now what did you have? You had not only Druze, you had the Druze and Muslims against Christian. Why is that? First, the reforms. They were not happy with the reforms. That now the Christians, they were doing well economically. They were able to work in the Ottoman Empire. You had equality before you did not have equality. And of course, you have the grievances and resentment. But then what happened, you have a number of Ottoman officials cooperated with the Druze and a good number of Muslims, not only in Mount Lebanon, but also in Damascus. And you had villages, as a matter of fact, not dozens, more than dozens of villages that were burned, especially in the mixed areas of Mount Lebanon. And you have many Christians that were killed, including European Christians that were at the time in Damascus. The 1860 massacres, really, they were awful, terribly, terribly awful. Now, the point is, this is when France and the Europeans said, stop, you cannot do this. And the French introduced, army there, and they kind of stabilize the thing. And against this background, the Ottoman and the European, you have a concerted effort to build something, and they came to build what came to be known as the Mutasarrifiyya. متصرفية, what it is, that is, you have a governor general who is a Catholic Ottoman, and he will rule the area, the Mount Lebanon, Druze and Christian, and he will subdivide it into district or into sub-district, but then he will be helped by a council, and that council will represent all communities, especially who? Especially the Druze, the Christians, and the Sunni and the Shia. And thus now what you have, the seeds of the confessional system. Now, you know, and during this time, I would say from 1861 to on the eve of World War I, Lebanon did very well. Lebanon did very well, and then came World War I. World War I was terrible for Lebanon. Why? The Christians had very close connections with the Europeans, especially with the French. And at the time, you know, the Ottoman Empire sided with Germany. Let's not forget that. And at the behest of Germany, they closed the Dardanelles Strait. Why? Because, you know, they were worried about Russia. And Russia, let's not forget, Russia and the Ottoman Empire had the recent war, the Russo-Turkish War, you know, in the 1870. This is when the Ottoman Empire lost most of the Balkans. So really, you know, what happened is that they wanted to hurt Russia. Russia was part, as a matter of fact, of the Allies with Britain and France. They closed the Dardanelles Strait, and the Dardanelles Strait was like a lifeline to Russia. And this, as a matter of fact, partly led, you know, to the Bolshevik Revolution, because Russia really suffered. It could not export any grains. But then what happened? What the British and the French did? The British especially, you know, they went and they said, we are going to block all the Levantine coastline. Mainly, you are talking Syria, you are talking Lebanon, you are talking Israel / Palestine. All this area, as a matter of fact, it was blockaded by the Europeans. Now, how, at the time, you know, let's not forget, in 1908, you have the rebellion of the Young Turks. They came to power. By 1913, you had the triumvirate. You had Jamal Pasha, Talat Pasha, Enver Pasha, you know, who really pursued a policy, two policies: centralization of the empire and Turkification of the empire. And Jamal Pasha was sent to Damascus. That was the base of the Ottoman Force Army, one of the largest army. And why he was sent there? To take over Suez Canal so as to prevent Britain from having access to the Eastern Mediterranean, from having access to East Africa, and especially to the Indian subcontinent. And of course, they were worried about Arab nationalism and the Christians of the Levant on account of their close relationship with the French, and less so with the British. So what they did now, Jamal Pasha blockaded Mount Lebanon, blockaded it all. So what happened now by blockading it, and he introduced way more troops to Mount Lebanon and Beirut. So what happened now, and really, you know, and at the time, really the Lebanese and people who lived there, and I want to tell you something, at the time, you have a good number of Jews in Beirut. You had the Romano family, you had the Safra family, you have the Kalash family, you have a good number of families, really. So the point is now, you had a drought this year, and you had an invasion of locusts, and the locust ate every green in Lebanon. And Lebanon really does not have an economy of scale. Its economy was based on sericulture. So really, it doesn't have an economy of subsistence. So here now, the Lebanese, as a matter of fact, they couldn't receive remittance from abroad. Why? Because the British and the French, they wouldn't allow any ship to come to the port, to the ports of Lebanon. And more so, no food going in, and the food in Lebanon was killed by the locust. And then what did Jamal Pasha do? He really tightened the noose around the Christian villages. Nothing go in, nothing go out. And then he kicked out all the missionaries. Well, something about the missionaries, they were controlling and facilitating. They were behind all the medical treatment. You know, they had the schools and everything in Lebanon. And this is now you have the famine and epidemics. By the end of it, you know, and I don't want to delve into it, 1/3 of the population of Mount Lebanon died, including the Armenians now. And the Armenians, they were kicked out. You know, you had their final solution was to push them through the Syrian desert. The Armenian, whoever survived, went to Aleppo. In Aleppo, you have epidemics. And then what happened to Armenian? Good numbers of them came into Lebanon, and they came to live with the Christian. But then, they suffered doubly, being genocided by the Turks, by the Ottomans, and then they suffered again from starvation. So really the Armenian again, the Christian, and I would say a few number of Jews who were living in Beirut, they all suffered and they died from starvation until the Ottoman Empire was defeated. But here I want to tell you one thing which is extremely important to note: what the United States did and what Great Britain did. United States, as a matter of fact, under Wilson and under Dodge and under the supervision of the American University of Beirut, formerly called the Syrian Protestant College, led the way in helping the Lebanese. If it wasn't for the Americans, as a matter of fact, Mount Lebanon and Beirut and many people would have died. Many people would have died. So really, you have no idea, thanks to Dodge, thanks to President Bliss, and thanks to those. Why? Because the Ottoman allowed the American to operate, because the American, became part of the war at the end. And somehow, the people at the American University of Beirut, they helped the Ottoman officials. So they allowed them to operate. And really, their work stood out by helping the Armenians. And from their perspective, everybody was called Syrian at the time, whether you are Lebanese or other, everybody. So here you have help. Now, let me tell you something about Great Britain that I found in my research. And I was really unhappy, and now I look at what's happening in Nagorno-Karabakh, the Armenian, and I say, what's going on here? As a matter of fact, the British, they sent, letter, and I have them on record. They have sent letter to the American ambassador, as a matter of fact, in Istanbul, Morgenthau. They spoke with the State Department, and they said, listen, we don't want you to help to that effect. We don't want you to help all those who live under the Ottoman Empire, because if you help them, that means you are helping indirectly or directly the Ottoman Empire. And this is really, and I really, when I read it, I couldn't believe that the British would pursue such a policy. Well, let me tell you this. As a matter of fact, the president then and the State Department said, absolutely not. We are going to do our best to send money there and send food. And this is what United States did. So really, for those who speak about United States, this and this, United States did, and not only for the Christian. When you send food, they didn't say, oh, this goes for the Christian. You had many people there. Yes, the Christian bore the brunt of the famine, but you have a lot of people that suffer. So this is now, at the end of the Ottoman rule, you had the French, and the French really built on the Mutasarrifiyya, built on the confessional system, and created the confessional system, really, how it is. Christian as a president, Sunni as a prime minister, and Shia as a house of speaker. Now, you have to understand one thing, and that now Lebanon became bigger. Lebanon had the Bekaa, he had the Tripoli, and had Sidon and Tyre. These were at one time part of the Damascus province or part of the Tripoli province. Now they became part, and the Christian became no longer a plurality. Mainly they became, with time, I wouldn't say a minority, but no longer a majority or no longer a plurality. Now, regarding Turkey, as a matter of fact, here Lebanon got its independence, and really from Lebanese, and I did a lot of interviews. I looked at the Jesuit archives. I looked at the American historical, archives. I did a lot of things. So mainly the Lebanese at the time after independence, they were not that happy to have a good relationship with Turkey. What happened during the Great Famine, it was fresh in their collective consciousness, and a lot of issues. The Armenians, again, became very active. The Armenian of Lebanon, as a matter of fact, it's a small community, but they are very active. And of course, the others, the Shia, for example, they were not happy also. Why the Shia? They were not happy because under Ottoman rule, the Shia was obligated to follow not their Ja'fari 12-er school of Shia Islam. They were obligated to follow Sunni juridical Islam. So mainly, so somehow, and the Sunni, some of them, of course, here's the Sunni part, really still like the Ottoman, and some, they had reservation. But overall, whether Shia, whether, as a matter of fact, Christians, they really were not happy. So you did not have cordial relation. Now, what was the policy of the Turkey? Let's not forget with Ataturk and the Republican what I call, Ataturk's people, they really moved away from the Middle East, and they did not have a good relationship, especially with their neighbors, especially with Syria. In the 1950, for example, they did not have a good relationship. In the 1960, this is when Turkey started to change. It recognized Israel, but it said in the 1960, listen, let me have a rapprochement, with the Arab world. And it started to speak now about the Palestinian issue. For example, in the 1967 war and 1973 war, you had a request by Israel and by United States to use Turkish bases, and Turkey was not happy with that. Said, listen, let me be out of it. But the point is, still Turkey maintained good relationship with both. It said, I'm going to maintain good relationship with Israel and good relationship with the Arabs. So you had some kind of a rapprochement. Now, in Lebanon in the 1950, especially late 1950, you had Sham'un, the president, a Maronite, and you had the Eisenhower Doctrine in 1957. Now, who supported the Eisenhower Doctrine? You have two countries at the time. You had Iraq and Lebanon. Now, Lebanon was built as a crossroad between East and West. And when Nasser came to power, the Christians felt that you had a lot of weight on the what we call the coexistence, in Lebanon. Why? Because the Muslim camp mainly always supported, the Palestinian question. The Christian early on, they said, listen, we are small countries. And you had, of course, you had Maronite, correspondence, with the Israeli, with the Zionists, even before the establishment of the State of Israel, way before. So the point is, the Christian in the 1950s said, listen, we don't want to be involved in this conflict. If you are here, Palestinian or others, and for the Muslims, don't support them. We are going to be neutral, mainly following a policy of disassociation. When Sham'un supported the Eisenhower Doctrine, really the Muslims, and especially what we call the people of the left, including Kamal Jumblat, he was the man of the left at the time. They really kind of attacked Sham'un, and then you had the mini civil war. And then Eisenhower sent the Navy to Lebanon. The Navy in Lebanon, the Navy, the American Navy, it kind of diffused the crisis, but it did not solve the crisis. The crisis now, really, you had now enough people, in the Muslim camp, and I would call it pan-Arab leftist camp, more than a Muslim camp. Now they no longer wanted, Maronite or Christian hegemony over the state. And this remained so until 1975. And 1975, you had the same problem. As a matter of fact, the Christians said, listen, we don't want to be part of the Arab-Israeli conflict. We don't want the Palestinian to carry out attack from south of Lebanon into Israel. And you had a lot of problems. And let's not forget, one time Israel in the late 1960s, it hit the airport. And you have a lot of problems with the Palestinian. Now, Turkey again, Turkey was not involved. It did not support anyone. Turkey again, had an official relationship with Lebanon, but did not support Palestinian. It spoke with the Palestinians, spoke with Israeli, but again, it did not take a stand. Now, come in the 1970s, the war again, Turkey was off. In the 1980s, things changed. Things changed. Why? Because Turkey, as a matter of fact, had a difficult relationship with Syria. And at one time, it deployed a lot of troops on the border of Syria. You have problems with Syria. They go back to the Hatay province. It's called Hatay in Turkish, but it was to be called it is called in Arabic Alexandrun, or in English Alexandrata province. And this province, was part of Syria, and the French gave it to Turkey in 1939 on the eve of World War II. So the point is, you have tension, and came the tension over the water, over the dams that Turkey was building over the Tigris and the Euphrates River. So what you have now, Assad came to support who? Assad came to support Asala. It's an Armenian considered terrorist organization, and the PKK. PKK, the Kurdish Workers' Party, considered then and today as a terrorist organization. And not only that, Syria provided for them in the Bekaa Valley their headquarters. And this is when Turkey started to look at Lebanon and say, oops, what's going on here? And mainly now, since Syria was in Lebanon, so you have a lot of proxy conflict between Turkey and Syria. And finally, Turkey decided to mobilize its forces and gave a warning in 1998 to Syria: either you kick out Öcalan or we are going to invade. And this is when, as a matter of fact, he decided to cut off his relationship, with the Armenian, mainly Asala, and with the PKK. And Öcalan, really, he escaped, but then he was caught, and now he's in prison in Turkey. Now, again, in the 1990s, this is when Turkey had a very good relationship with Israel. Very good relationship with Israel, a lot of intelligence sharing, a lot of things. Now, these things changed when, in 2002. 2002, the AKP, or the Party of the Justice of Development, Erdogan party, came to power. And here, when it came to power, really, you had, when it comes to the ideology, you had one time an academic, and then he served as a foreign minister, then he served as a prime minister, Davutoglu. Davutoglu, really, he's a very bright person, and especially after the collapse of the Soviet Union, he came up with a new foreign policy approach. This new foreign policy approach was called, the new strategic, outlook toward the Middle East. Now, this strategic depth outlook, was based on what? Was based on the legacy of the Ottoman Empire, mainly the history of the Ottoman Empire, and on the geography of the Ottoman Empire. So mainly, they wanted to transition Turkey from a regional power to a global power. And of course, you have another thing also, to have a zero problem with neighbors. So you have now completely different outlook to the Middle East and to the area all around Turkey, including Albania, Bulgaria, and others, where you have Turkish minorities. So what do you have now? A new outlook to Lebanon. Let's be involved more. Let's do what we're going to have. Now, by chance, this is again by research, by chance, one time, an officer heard a guy in north of Lebanon speaking Turkish. And he said, "You speak still Turkish here?" He said, "Yes, I'm a Turkman." And this Turkman was taken to the Turkish embassy in late 1980s. By the 1990s, as a matter of fact, Turkey came to know that you have enough minority who are Turkmen, and families, Sunni, of Turkish origin. So it started to have a contact with them. When the AKP came to power, the AKP, as I mentioned to you, is a strategic depth doctrine, really. So part of it was reviving, the nationalism, the Ottoman, cultural identity. Let's not forget, he is an Islamist, but also as an Islamist, he's a nationalist Islamist. And he looks at his own version of Islam as integral or emerged from Islamic civilization. It's very important here to distinguish his branch of Islamism from the Muslim brother of Islamism, although they share a lot of tenet and principle. So the point is now, Davutoglu went to Lebanon in 2009. Then Erdogan went to Lebanon in 2009, and they were surprised. You have Turkmen and others, and they came to support them. And you have started now to have what? To have started to have soft support, what we call it soft diplomacy, Turkish in Lebanon, and an interest in Lebanon. For example, in the 2006 war between Hezbollah and Israel, the Turks contributed 1,000 Turks in UNIFIL. The Turks, came and really kind of tried to work between Israel, and Lebanon, although Erdogan is somehow then, was anti-Israel because he criticized Israel at the time. So what you have now, Turkey became really helping Lebanon on many levels. And at the time, they did not help only the Turkmen and the Sunni. They supported many, as a matter of fact. And also they wanted to bring, the Christian with the Sunni, with the Shia. Then came the Syrian rebellion. The Syrian rebellion, this is when whatever contact, Erdogan had with the Shia, zero problem, it disappeared. Why? Because Hezbollah supported the Assad regime. Turkey did not support the Assad regime. And the people of North Lebanon, and this is what I've done a lot of research, including my book on Salafism, really they were anti-Assad and extremely anti-Hezbollah. And this is where, as a matter of fact, you started to see what? Turkey, again, soft diplomacy. Turkey started to help with helping the refugee coming to Lebanon with who? With the Muslim Association, which is an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood in Lebanon. So here what we see now, more Turkish involvement in helping the people, especially of North Lebanon, Tripoli and Akkar. And these are really, you know, Akkar region, you have a Christian minority, but really it's a very poor region, very poor. So Turkey helped them. And you have, as a matter of fact, you have so many Turkish organizations, from Tika to the Red Crescent, to the Turkish Red Crescents, to the Turkish embassy. You know, I have a list of over 20, 30 organizations myself. And you have many people, and also Turkey went also and started to give scholarship to Sunni to study in Turkey. So Turkey, and now Turkey today had a strong base in northern Lebanon, and Akkar and Tripoli, among the Sunni, you know, and among, you know, I would say some very, very, very few, as a matter of fact, Christian, but among the Sunni. But then this is what's the difference now between Turkey and between the other country. For example, Iran and Saudi Arabia. Iran and Saudi Arabia, they support. Saudi Arabia support Hariri, although now it's not supporting Hariri, it's not supporting much. But they give him money and they give him weapon. Iran support Hezbollah with everything. Something about Turkey. Turkey thus far, you know, Lewis, Turkey it supported the Lebanese, but it did not get involved in supporting them with weapons. So always it has what we call, you know, a soft diplomacy vis-a-vis Lebanon. And also Turkey was at odds with Hezbollah. And although, you know, you have kidnapping some of the Turk there, Turkey did not go to war with Hezbollah. You have a war of words between Hezbollah and Turkey, but Turkey did not go to war and did not go, you know, because you have some, and I investigated that. You have, for example, at one time a foreign minister in Lebanon, and you have some in the army of Lebanon said, listen, Turkey is sending weapons to north of Lebanon. Well, I did my investigation, and based on what I heard, including from some generals who fought the Salafi jihadi there, and they are friends of mine. I knew him when I used to work in the civil in the Red Cross in Lebanon. They told me, no, Robert, you have support, but no weapons. Turkey did not introduce weapons. So the point is now, Turkey and Lebanon. Turkey has good support in north of Lebanon. That support has not been reflected in the confessional system of Lebanon. But at the same time, Turkey, I can tell you that if Turkey tomorrow wants to do something in north of Lebanon, it will belong to Turkey, however you want to look at it. And let me give you some example. The Armenians, every year, they want to go and commemorate the Armenian genocide. And in Lebanon, let's not forget, Lebanon was one of the first countries to recognize the Armenian genocide. As I mentioned to you, the Armenians, you know, they are integral part of Lebanon. Through the community is small, but it's very active. Here, what's happening now, every year, as a matter of fact, every team, the Armenian want to do some kind of a commemoration immediately north of Lebanon, and many who are, you know, pro-Turkey, for example, including in south of Lebanon, including in Sidon and in Tyre, you have Muslim there. They go and they attack Armenian in a way you have no belief in. And at one time, you know, those supportive of Turkey, you had one Armenian guy on TV, and he was talking as for Erdogan, and he's not good. They went and they kind of surrounded the TV station. So mainly the point is now, Turkey still support Lebanon, especially after the port explosion. It did not say, well, I'm going to support the Christian and not the Sunni and the Sunni. No, it supported all of Lebanon, you know, and of course, with a special attention to the Sunni, and more special attention to the Turkmen. And also Turkey today, if you trace your heritage to the Ottoman Empire or to a Turkish family, or you are a Turkmen, you are immediately allowed to have the Turkish citizenship. So at the end of the day, Turkey in Lebanon today is very powerful, but it's not powerful with the weapons. But Turkey has taken greatly the role, or I would say to more or less extent, the role of Saudi Arabia that it played before. But more so, Turkey has shown, especially the people of north of Lebanon, you know, that it is a potent power, and Erdogan is a very strong Muslim that they really admire. And I can tell you this, I believe you all remember the coup d'etat that took place, you know, in 2016. In 2016, when you have the coup d'etat against, against Turkey, against Erdogan, in north of Lebanon, as a matter of fact, I don't know how they come up. All of a sudden, you woke up in Lebanon, you have Turkish flags all over the place. I don't know when they had the time to make those Turkish flags. So at the end of the day, Turkey today, it has a good relationship with Lebanon. It has not interfered, you know, by supporting weapons and others, but still it has created a strong foothold in north of Lebanon and some other part of Lebanon. And that's what's Turkey today. I'll be happy to take more questions as I have other things to say as well.
Thank you so much, Robert. That has been terrific. And please, I ask people, just those who want to ask a question, please either raise your hand through the computer or just put your question on the chat. Let me start myself as a moderator to ask you the following. I think the eyes of the world today are on Turkish involvement in Syria. I think at one point people were very upset, and this is something that you mentioned in your book about the strong connection or the strong relation that they had with the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, and the fact that he didn't like al-Sisi at all. You know, he resented the fact that the Muslim Brotherhood was overthrown. And then in the civil war in Syria, there is a problem there with the Kurdish community. And the Kurdish community, of course, was allied or protected to a certain extent by the United States until, you know, Trump at one point decided to withdraw. But there is concern about how Turks treat the Kurds. So I wonder whether you could discuss a little bit the situation in Syria. Syria and Lebanon at one point were one unit, and they are still interrelated. And what's going on there?
All right, listen, it's not only in Syria, you know, Louis, it's Syria and Iraq. Let's not forget that. Really, you know, Erdogan, absolutely, and this is one of the main grievances or resentment he has with United States, that United States supported the Kurds. And what he did now, you know, during Trump, he took a good part of northern Syria, and he is there. And more so, as a matter of fact, you have this is a big problem for us now. You have the province of Idlib. Idlib, as a matter of fact, it's run by former ISIS. And Turkey, now I wouldn't say Turkey support them, but Turkey tried to take over and it couldn't, so it has a certain relationship with them. So the point is, Turkey will not allow, and it's against even strong autonomy for the Kurds in northern Syria. And today, Turkey is in northern Syria. Now, they are communicating with Iran, they are with the Russians, but still, you know, at the end of the day, Turkey is there, it's against the PKK, and I think that Erdogan and others, they will do whatever it takes to make sure that a Kurdish autonomy, you know, in northern Syria will not take root, really. And you have to consider that recently you have a lot of problems, you know, within the Syrian Democratic Force, mainly with the Kurds and the Arab tribes that working together. And this, they say, it was kind of fomented by the Syrian government, by the Iranian, and by the Turks. And again, you have it in Iraq. You know, the Turks, you know, they are in Iraq, also not to that extent they are in Syria. But again, you know, wherever they have PKK, they bomb them. And always the Iraqi government say, listen, you are violating our sovereignty. Well, this is really for the Turks, wherever they see that they can attack, you know, or circumscribe the action of the Kurds, whether in Syria or Iraq, they will do it. Absolutely, they will do it.
Bob has a question.
Yeah, thank you very much. We constantly hear about the 150,000 missiles aimed from Lebanon into Israel. And if there's a decent relationship between Lebanon and Turkey, why is Turkey allowing Hezbollah? I thought they didn't like Hezbollah.
Okay, Turkey is against Hezbollah. Turkey does not have good relationship with Hezbollah. But Turkey does not support the Sunni with weapons to fight Hezbollah. Turkey support the Sunni community. I'm not saying it's not going to do that in the future. This is remain to be seen. But Turkey does not support Hezbollah, and there is a fallout between the two, and completely two different camps. We have to understand that.
Are they friendlier with Israel or friendlier with if they don't like Hezbollah? I don't think they like Israel either.
Well, listen, Erdogan, if you go back to you remember the flotilla and really, you know, that he wanted to break the isolation of Gaza. You know, this is where, as a matter of fact, a little bit tense in the relationship. But if you look at Turkey and Israel relationship, in the 90s, they were very good. Then when Erdogan came to power, you know, on the rhetorical side, you know, political, regional side, it wasn't good. But if you look at the trade, always the trade between Turkey and Israel remained steadfast, remained really well. Now, and of course, you know, Turkey, Erdogan, he really, as an Islamist and as a supporter of the Palestinian cause, he really criticizes Israel. But recently, he changed course. Recently, as a matter of fact, he changed course. And I believe that he met with Netanyahu, you know, and today, you know, I wouldn't say
Netanyahu. Yesterday met with Netanyahu.
Yeah. And let me tell you the truth, that they don't have the relationships they had in the 1990, because in the 1990, you know, really the army kind of shared a lot of intelligence with Israel. Israel was allowed to fly, you know, in the airspace of Turkey. You have a lot of things. Now today, Erdogan, I wouldn't say would do that, but now today Erdogan has re-established, you know, his good relationship with Israel. And more so, as a matter of fact, it was part of his strategy today, you know, because he knew that, you know, his policy did not work out when the Islamist ruler from Libya and Tunisia and Egypt really fell, you know, and he had a bad relationship with Israel, but also with United Arab Emirates, with Saudi Arabia. Really, today, he kind of smoothened, and he had now good relationship with all of them, because the economy of Turkey is not good. And he discovered that his policy in the region, you know, did not pan out. He really felt that the Islamist is gonna come there. He's gonna, and especially he looked really, and I didn't speak about it, but Erdogan looked at a strategic alliance, especially with which country? With Egypt under Morsi. He felt that Turkey, with its legacy and heritage, and Egypt that dictated Arab politics, together, you know, they will have, you know, big influence in the Middle East. This did not pan out. So he had a tense relationship with them, but today, the last few years, he kind of re-established a harmonious, and as a matter of fact, a cordial relationship. UAE now is investing in Turkey. Saudi Arabia is investing in Turkey. And Turkey, especially now today, after the Ukraine crisis, and this is something I spoke about, you know, you have three countries in the Middle East, really. They were regional, but now they are regional with international reach. Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey. You know, they are really capitalizing and benefiting from the split in the world between global north and global south. And Turkey today is a key actor, as a matter of fact, in the region, and not only in the region, I would say in a good part of the world, especially in Europe.
So last question. If there's a feud between Hezbollah and they start launching missiles to Israel, will Turkey mind their own business, or will they help one or the other?
No, they will try to mediate.
Yeah.
But they won't, you know, send troops to help Israel. And I hope this will never happen, because it will be a disaster, really, for both Lebanon and Israel. I hope this is as a matter of fact, my biggest worry, if a war by miscalculation takes place between Israel and Lebanon. But Turkey, you know, it will not get involved in any way, but it will try to play a mediating role. This is what I expect Turkey will do.
Dr. Rabil, a terrific educational, for me anyway, about the history of. I really appreciate it.
Zach has a question. Zach,
go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Professor, for that speech. So my area of research is more on the Sunni community in Lebanon. And in the 50s and the 60s, it was Gamal Abdel Nasser and the Arab nationalism. In the 70s and the 80s, It was the Palestinian question with the Fedayeen, etc. And I'm focusing more on Rashid Karami. But my question is twofold. The first question is, given Turkey and its Sunni population, how is it, I mean, in the north of Lebanon, which is the Akka region and Tripoli, are the Sunnis much more, I mean, every country has been interfering in Lebanon in different ways. Is there any kind of, I mean, I know the Sunni community doesn't really identify with Le Grand Liban or the Le Grand Liban project that's coming to fold. Is that the reason why Turkey has gotten involved? And the second part of my question is also, there's been, there was, like you alluded to it in your earlier in your speech or your discussion, which was about the Maronite community talking about, or generally Lebanon talking about partition and federalism. And I've read your article about federalism, that it's not probably going to work for a variety of historical reasons. But there was also Le Petit Liban, little smaller Lebanon. And I'm wondering if, and I'm sorry, I'm getting too academic here for the audience.
No, it's okay, it's all right.
But I just was wondering if you think maybe Le Petit Liban is a better solution to Lebanon today.
All right. Well, let me answer the first question. Let's not forget, with the AKP come to power, with Erdogan came to power, the interest now, not only in Lebanon, the interest were in all countries for Turkey to have good relationship with. Even, with the Muslim in Bulgaria and Albania, wherever you have Turkmen, wherever you have, Erdogan was right there to help them. And let's not forget, when they visited, really there, you don't have only one village. You have a number of villages who are of Turkmen, or they are Turkic, not Turkmen, Turkic, and they lived there and very close. So mainly, Turkey's interest in Lebanon, started to be more, influential, or more so when the AKP came to power in 2002. This followed by discovering you have, a Turkmen there. And then after, really, Erdogan wanted to have good relationship there, and he found that the Sunni community, especially after Saudi Arabia stopped supporting, the Sunni. Saudi Arabia always supported the Sunni, especially in Tripoli and Beirut. And their own man was Hariri, at first Rafi, and then his son Saad. But they became disenchanted with them, especially with Saad, because they felt all that support that they gave, money and everything, and they were not able to check the power of Hezbollah. So really, at the end, if you remember, at one time, Saudi Arabia, pledged $3 billion to support, the internal police, and said, listen, guys, I'm not gonna give you any money. Now, who stepped into that void? The Turks. The Turks. Why also, again, the Turks? Because Turkey did not like the Assad regime, and northern Lebanon, because it has a legacy of Islamism. Syria really was very harsh with them in the 1980s. This is something probably, you have covered, and I covered it, at length myself. So from there, so you have now some kind of a conflation, of a convergence, between the Turks and the Islamists and the Sunni and the Turkmen, especially of North Lebanon. This is the first question. The second question, when you mentioned that the Sunni today probably, about they had issues with Ground Lebanon. As a matter of fact, the Sunni today, they want Ground Lebanon, or they want Greater Lebanon as it is today. They are against federalism. They are against the partition. What was before, it was before. The Christian, as a matter of fact, they are frustrated. And when I wrote about it, because I know them very well, and I put an article recently as a national interest. I don't know if you read it, the tragedy of political Maronitism. Mainly, the Maronite, whatever they did, at the end of the day, somehow their decision was good, and the regional condition and the international condition went against them. So yes, they are frustrated, and you have talks about decentralization, talks about federalism, and talks about partition. But it's not going anywhere, and I'll tell you why. Because the Christian now, they don't have partners. And if you look at the history of Lebanon, the history of Lebanon really started in Mount Lebanon. In Mount Lebanon, what do you have? You have Druze and Christian, correct? Well, and this is what I tell the Maronite myself. Do you have the Druze, you know, in concert with you? Mainly, do you work with you? Do you coordinate with them to create or to start the movement of federalism? Well, I can tell you that. The Druze in Lebanon, absolutely, they don't want federalism. And so really, the Maronite, they have no partners in their plans, whether it is partition or it is federalism or other things. And more so something now, the Druze, again, which are very important actor, but something with them now. Historically, they were close, you know, with the Christian, even though you have the massacre, even though you have, but they lived together, and Mount of Lebanon was mainly marked by what? A strong Christian presence, strong, you know, the Druze presence. Today, when I look at the Druze and give them their minority status, their, what I call it, you know, the khutut al-tamaz, you know, the political, you know, border between Druze and Shia is way more between Druze and the Christian. So today, now the Druze are very concerned, and they don't want to be at war with Hezbollah. They don't agree with Hezbollah, but they don't want to be at war with Hezbollah. So here, Jumblat now, as the main leader, he is against the Syrian Bashar al-Assad, he against the Iranian axis, but he will tell you, listen, I don't want to have war. So the point is, the Christian, especially the Maronites, they don't have partners in their plans. And they should work on that. And but a matter of fact, whatever I meet with them, you know, whatever they discuss with me, you know, I tell them, listen, you have to work on building coalition. Forget now, or listen, we cannot live with this, we cannot live with that. You can do it. And more so, as a matter of fact, because if you read my recent article, again, I know from our State Department does not support partition in Lebanon, period.
May I just follow up with another question, or is there other people? I can.
Well,
No, go right ahead. Exactly.
Well, I was just curious about, like I said at the end of my question about the debate that was going on in the 1920s about Le Grand Liban, smaller Lebanon, which like Émile Edde, for instance, was very fond of, and then the Greater Lebanon, Le Grand Liban, which was the Maronite Church that was favoring it, etc., and Bashar al-Khoury, etc., that were more supportive of it. And in the end, it was Le Grand Liban. And I just wanted to know where you stood on that. That was my question also.
Well, I mentioned that in some way, but let me mention it very directly to you now. As a matter of fact, the Maronite community is split, and let me repeat that again. The Sunni does not support, you know, a Petit Liban, or mainly they support Lebanon as it is today, period.
Okay.
Saying that in the future, probably they don't, you know, support it, but today you have no support. And again, within the Maronite community, even the Patriarch of Lebanon, he would like to have, you know, for example, the Ta'if, which have a strong degree of decentralization. But when he speaks about the, you know, federalism or partition, he is very worried. He is very concerned, you know. So the point is, yes, you have a debate, and I am part of that debate. I am not against federalism in Lebanon. I am saying, listen, this is a work in progress. Whether federalism or any other plan you have to do in Lebanon today, you have to do it with partnership with the other members of the community. Well, you don't have others that they are partners in those plans. So this debate is ongoing, but you don't have it like before. And you have to consider one thing when you speak about, you know, yes, the Maronite Church supported the Greater Lebanon. Why is that? Let's not forget the viability, you know, and what happened during the famine. You know, they know that Lebanon, only Mount Lebanon, really does not provide an economic of scale. So this is why they wanted to have viability. And of course, you know, they wanted to have, you know, connection with the Arab world. And this is how Bashar al-Khoury, you know, camp won over the other camp. Now, regarding those, you know, Muslims who wanted to be part of Syria, they changed their mind. You know, with time, they changed their mind. and against the Shia, as a matter of fact. They are for greater Lebanon, not for smaller Lebanon. You know what I mean? So today, the point is the Christian are in a very difficult situation. The Christian had at one time, really, the allies were Israel. But with Israel, you know, and let's not forget, it was the Christian, as a matter of fact, even before many supported Zionism, you had bishops that went in front of the wall and said, listen, how could you deny, you know, Jewish nationalism here? Look at this. These are Jewish. What do you call this? Now, but what happened is that it did not work out somehow. You know, those contacts that started with Ben Gurion, you know, and it continued in 1950. You have contacts that continued between the Maronite and the Zionists in the United States. You know, really, you know, you had contacts, but again, the Maronites, you know, they were worried. They want their connection with the Arabs and their connections with Lebanon and Israel. And it was difficult to balance. Now, when Bashir Gemayel came to power, he really went full blown with Israel. But Israel, again, you know, if you look, Zach, and anybody here, Israel, as a matter of fact, the High Court, the High Court in Israel ordered the Mossad, called on the Mossad to release or to declassify documents dealing with the Mossad dealings with Lebanon during Bashir Gemayel, during the alliance between the Maronite and the Christians. And they were published, a good number of published of them in Haaretz. You see that even in Israel, as a matter of fact, you had reservation. Yes, they wanted to work with the Maronite, but some of the Israeli intellectual and Israeli, you know, politician and army said, listen, you cannot build a relationship based only on one community. And some of the Israelis, some of them I know, they believe that Israel should have really forged relationship with other than the Maronite. And regarding Bashir Gemayel, what happened, you know, you had a little bit fallout, you know, between him and between the Israeli. Why? Because when Israel invaded, you know, Bashir Gemayel was supposed to go and help the Israeli in Beirut, you know, to go into Beirut. The point is Reagan, now, this is when President Reagan came, and President Reagan told them, listen, you are now president, and you are not going to be a leader on only the Christian. You're going to be a leader for Christians and for the Muslims. So this is where you had some kind of a divergence in opinion, because United States, you know, went, you know, between the Israelis, and they were not happy with the invasion, and especially what happened in the Sabra and Shatila. So this is again, you know, and with the death of Bashir Gemayel, the whole house of cards, as a matter of fact, the whole relationship with Israel collapsed. You know, because really the Syrian killed him and killed top of his lieutenant, you know, and I still remember, you know, you have some Israeli journalists, you know, they were there and they went berserk. They were so sad, and they were digging in the sand and in the rubble to recover the corpse of Bashir Gemayel. And this is and then Amin Gemayel became president. Amin Gemayel, as a matter of fact, even in the Gemayel family, you have part of it really strongly pro-Israel, and another part not against Israel, but they don't want to affect their relationship with the Arab world. And so you had so many things that happened that this alliance somehow it didn't work out. And the Maronite today, they are no longer a majority. You know what I mean? And they no longer had the guns and the power like before. It was Hezbollah. So their salvation really is in coalition building, you know, to counteract Hezbollah. Because if they can build a strong coalition with the Druze and with the Sunni, they can counteract Hezbollah. Because at the end of the day, I don't think even the Shia community, they want to have a civil war. Let me say it this way. Hezbollah might go into war with Israel before it will go to war and have a civil war in Lebanon.
Okay,
you know?
Robert,
We have
one more question, and Stephen is going to read the question. Try to be brief, because I think we need to wrap up.
Sure.
so we
I would like to say a few words about...
yeah, hang on, Luis, hang on. You want to finish up with Zach, or are you finished, Robert?
I
with Zach, I am done with Zach, because I have to take up
Yes,
questions.
Okay, we have.
Thank you.
We have, and thank you for those intellectual questions, Zach. Danielle has a question. I don't know.
Yeah,
if you can
Danielle.
see it. Can you see it, Robert? I can read it otherwise. How is the genocide?
Yeah, starvation, remember, in Lebanon, for example, it is taught in school. As a matter of fact, I can tell you this,
Repeat
Daniel.
that question because not
All right.
everyone in the audience.
Okay,
knows.
I'll read it.
Okay.
I'll read it quickly. How
Read
is
it.
the genocide by starvation remembered in Lebanon today? For example, is it taught in schools to the upcoming generations? It seems there was a lot of silence surrounding the events. Do you think this kind forgetting through silencing that has occurred or that occurred has implications that emerge in present generations, both individually and collectively?
Okay, I'm gonna be concise, because running out of time. As a matter of fact, it's a very excellent question, Danielle. When I was growing up and I went to Catholic school, in that school, yes, you had a movie, and we had a special session on the starvation, on the famine. It is called The Great Famine. And I still remember the name of the movie because I watched it again. It's called Safar Barlik. The point is, yes, before 1990s, I would say, and before 1975, before the war, yes, you had especially in the private school, especially you have public schools and private school. Most of us Christian, we go to private schools. In those schools, yes, the starvation was taught. It was taught, and more so, as a matter of fact, you had a movie. You had a movie, that was in Lebanon about the Great Famine and about Safar Barlik, the forced labor that the Ottoman Turk forced on the Lebanese. So yes, but then after the civil war, this stopped. Why? Because now the Sunni are too sensitive and giving, many political leaders, they don't want to hark back to some difficult time, and especially, you have, this mainly after the Ta'if, after the civil war, most political leaders refrain from bringing back the horrible things that happened, including the Great Famine. So after the civil war, no, it is not mainly spoken about. And I did ask whether this movie is still out there, but it's no longer shown in the schools as before. No. Now the Maronite clergy, they always speak about it, but they are very careful because they want to keep their relationship with the Sunni. And as I mentioned today, Turkey today had a great relationship with the Sunni. Let's not forget that. So mainly on account of maintaining, cordial, harmonious, a communal coexistence in Lebanon, this thing is not being spoken about as much as before.
Okay, Robert, thank you. I think
that has been really, really terrific. And Stephen, before you wrap up, I wanted to tell you that this book is really a terrific book to read. And if you enjoy this presentation, you're going to enjoy the book even more, or at least as much. You can purchase it through Amazon, or you can purchase it, I don't know where there is in any bookstore, but it's Amazon. I don't know where it is already in ebook, Robert.
And you can get, I see it's a Kindle book also, I think.
It's a Kindle book.
You have it. You have it
all.
Kindle, you have softback and hardback. You have it all.
So terrific.
So Robert, thank you so much. You've been terrific, and I will I will let Steve close the program.
Thank you. My partner is allowing me, so thank you very much.
No,
so I'm only kidding, Luis. First of all, I want to thank you, Robert, as well.
Thank you.
Those of
it's
us, I probably can speak for most academics I know. Just listening to you, we're humbled. You're truly unbelievable, incredible in how you present your research. It's just terrific. I can listen to you all day long. So
Stephen, just let me say something. You know by whom I am trained. I always say that. By the best, that is Rabbi and the professor at Brandeis.
Who was that professor?
So to finish up, for those who came late, the Palm Beach Center for Democracy and Policy Research is a nonpartisan public policy organization research center, and a think tank. And once again, I have to say that we are a 501c3 nonprofit, not-for-profit. So please visit our website at palmbeachdemocracy.org. And we have a donation button. We take no money, no salaries. We only have our money supports our website. We have a very professional website. We want to keep that up. And it's tax deductible. We'll send you a letter to that extent. And with that, I want to, of course, thank Luis, my business partner. I want to I'd like to mention everyone, but I can't. But thank you, Zach, for coming all the way from Ariel and from Tel Aviv. I'll be there in January. And Joel, good to see you. And I just have to say, hi, Karen. We don't talk that much, but we should. And with that, I say good night. And for those who celebrate, have an easy fast on Sunday night.
Exactly. Enjoy your holidays. Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thanks.
Good
Bye-bye.
night, everyone.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye.